the new MIS vlog number 3, and welcome back. I'm Ghazal once again, and basically for this vlog we're going to be discussing the four following chapters, which are chapter 8, chapter 9, chapter 10, and chapter 11. Now starting off with chapter 8, which actually talks about the wireless mobile computing and mobile commerce. Now, to start off, wireless technologies, for example, are related to wireless security, computer networks, and the Internet of Things. Now, transmission media, for example, like radio, satellites, microwaves, all of those things that are, and for devices, actually, there are smartphones, which help us communicate with people, emails, SMS, text messages, instant messages or calls, reminders, scheduler and address books, calculators, music videos, video players, cameras, GPS, Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, all the following are actually used by the devices that are smartphones related to the wireless transmission media. Now, the nice thing about all those is that they're very small, enough to carry or wear, and they perform such productive tasks at such an easy, like for anything, and they perform productive tasks and they communicate wirelessly. Now, talking about the disadvantages is that basically things could go wrong in the transmission or the capture of privacy, or like passing on or transmitting something that's not what actually happened. These things could happen throughout the wireless transmission process. So basically, all the following, like the radio, microwave, and satellite, they are there. This chapter talks about the advantages and the disadvantages of each. But basically, overall, all of them seem to have a very similar characteristic, which is the decent bandwidth. The highest bandwidth are for radios, microwaves, and satellites. Now, talking about GPS, moving on to GPS, it's basically a wireless system that utilizes satellites in order to determine locations or positions, for example, for navigating, mapping, and basically all of that is supported by 24 MEU satellites. Now, we have three different networks, which are the short range wireless networks, the medium range wireless networks, and the wide area of wireless networks range. Talking about the short range, for example, it could be Bluetooth or something that's nearby, a near field communication, for example, like credit cards and phones. Medium range wireless networks such as Wi Fi, wide area range wireless networks, for example, like from 1G up to 5G, which is the newest actually iteration now. Um, basically, 5G, which is the newest iteration, it's actually, it helps with cost reduction. It has the highest data rate recently, and it helps with device connectivity and many others. Now, moving on to mobile computing and mobile commerce, which actually they both for example, mobile computing has to do with broad mobility reach with convenience and localization, personalization, and instant connectivity, while mobile commerce basically has declining prices, very improved bandwidth, and availability of other devices with a variety of applications and services that are included or offered. And it's actually very easy to access information, and financial location based, and all those things could be um, included within the mobile commerce. And then talking about the Internet of Things, which has to do with supply chain management, infrastructure management, agriculture, transportation, smart home. It could include a lot of things. And now moving on to the wireless security, as we discussed previously, that there might be a lot of issues regarding the security or the privacy with the existence of the wireless and those networks, which is, for example, eavesdropping, rogue access point, radio frequency jamming, and war driving. Now, moving on to the next chapter, chapter 9, it basically talks about all the social media platforms that we use nowadays, for example, with tagging and blogging, and how it actually benefits the businesses and the customers. It actually does have a lot of benefits and contributions to that with advertising, for example, market research, viral marketing, and basically, overall, we can say that social computing plus BI and visualization, they add up onto a complete network understanding. For example, one of the most famous applications that are used in that process are Facebook and Twitter, where they get feedback, where they actually share their marketing campaigns, where actually they work on a lot of things through those two social media platforms. And then basically, for social advertising and viral marketing, there's market research, conversational marketing, and they conduct a market research. And in each of these processes, basically, they start off with targeting like potential customers or targeting a specific audience onto producing that product and getting their feedback from customers through social computing, and then conducting that market research that analyzes data and conducts better campaigns in order to improve the overall product design and service offerings. Moving on to the next chapter, chapter 10, which talks about ERP and TPS, which are the transaction processing system, which maintains privacy and security. It avoids errors and it offers efficient high volumes of data. They record results accurately and securely, and there's also they also source data automation, as well as the online transaction processing systems, which they where businesses work with their transactions online. Um, Again, transactions, for whoever doesn't know, basically it's anything captured or stored in a database throughout the history. Now, for um, different information systems for different departments, for example, marketing, finance, management, operations management, accounting, and HR, where each actually has a specific role. For example, finance, there's financial budgeting, there's investment management, there's financial transactions, controlling finances, and for example, financial statements. And then we can talk about how the financial planning and budgeting actually they allocate efficient financial sources, knowing about the availability and the cost of money and all these things. For example, for global stock exchanges, for managing multiple currencies, and for virtual close, things like that. And obviously, it talks about the product life cycle and the operations management and all these things. And then throughout this chapter as well, we'll discuss something which is the enterprise resource planning, the ERP, that are systems that correct lack of communication among functional IS information systems, um, where basically each has a specific role. We can talk about the ERP2 and the EAI that integrates systems with softwares that connect multiple applications actually, where existing ones they share and they communicate with their data. Now, moving on to something that we've already mentioned previously, which is supply chain management, which is also an ERP module actually that focuses on the supply chain efficiency and effectiveness and maximizes that. And then we can talk about the e-business, and we can talk about the business intelligence as well, where e-business it actually tracks the order status, the inventory levels, invoice reconciliation. And then the business intelligence is actually applying and organizing analytical tools to assist the managers with their decision making process. And then basically, this all depends on the organization flexibility, the quality and efficiency, we can decision making, and all those things. The thing about those things, they could be expensive, they could be hard to use, they could be time consuming, and any fail in there's actually always a high risk of failure, where data conversion may go wrong, where change in management forces, insufficient training, all those things may occur throughout that process. And then moving on quickly on to chapter 11, which talks about the customer relationship management and supply chain management. Where it's like, for example, it has to do with lifetime value. It discusses the low end versus the high end CRM systems and CRM strategies versus the CRM systems. There's data consolidation, and there's the 360 data view customer, where each has a specific definition, which I'll go over really quickly. For example, for the data consolidation, it's basically the organization's CRM system where they manage customer data effectively with modern interconnected systems, making data available to every unit of the business. And the 360 data view customer, it's basically a data set on each customer to enhance the relationship between the business and its customers. As there are different components for the customer facing applications and the customer touching applications as well, where you could contact them through live chats, customer service, the call center, the outbound telesales, the inbound teleservice, and many other help desks, for example. Now, going on to the supply chain process really quickly, which is a flow of materials and information, money and services and products, all the way from raw materials, and we can consider the warehouses or the factories or the intermediaries into delivering the product to the customers. And then here for the supply chain visibility or the inventory velocity, there are different segments, there are different flows, and there are different components. And obviously, there are provided solutions to each. For the segments, it has the upstream, the internal, and the downstream. For the flows, it has the material flows, it has the information, and the financial flows. Now, regarding the components, we have to plan, source, make, deliver, and then return. And then also in this chapter, it also provides us with solutions to the supply chain problems, which are vertical integration, GIT inventory, and information sharing, and finally the VMI. Alright, so that's it for today's vlog, and I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I hope you guys find it as beneficial as it is to me. Discussing and seeing and going over all these chapters was really important to me, and I hope it's as important to you guys. And thank you so much. See you next vlog.